So many people probably be listening to this, and they've probably listened to our voices in their ears for a very long time.
Sounds quite intimate, doesn't it? Like being in someone's ears.
Yeah.
Hello. It's us.
Wow, that was not planned. But if you have, but you're still maybe a bit on the fence with investing, or you still want that little bit of hand holding, like we totally get it. It takes a while to get comfortable with, it takes a while to get confidence, but we thought, why not create a club to help bridge that gap? And so we've created the Curve Investing Club, and we want you to be a part of it. We want you to go from in our ears to in our club.
Yeah. If you want to find out more about what we talk about in the club, we've got all sorts of things like investing ideas to, market insights, to just like a real sense of community where you can ask questions, you can see what other people are investing in. It's a really cool space. So we'll put the link in the podcast show notes for you to find out more. And we do have a 7-day trial.
So there's no excuses.
You can try before you buy.
Perfect.
We will see you in there. Do you remember this episode?
Oh, she was so great.
Isn't she awesome?
Oh.
She's probably going to listen to this and be like, actually, F you, Sophie. I was really shocked at how clued up she was with money and investing, and like the way she speaks to her kids about it. Like I don't know why. I don't naturally expect people to know stuff, but she had so many insights, and I was like very impressed with this episode, just with the amount of knowledge she had and shared and tips and things that she does with her family.
Yes, it was really eye-opening, interesting, and that's what we love about having every guest on, is that you never really know where the conversation's going to go.
True.
And then it goes there.
I think this was one of our funny episodes. Yeah. So this is one from the archives. It's from a couple of years ago, but it's a goodie.
I want to go listen to it again too.
Same, actually. Yeah. Nostalgic. Baby Soph and Vic.
Yeah, we had a few less wrinkles back then, didn't we?
Can you stop talking about my wrinkles? I feel like you bring them up so much. It's making me feel
and my grey hairs, don't worry. Yeah.
So we've got Sharyn Casey in studio, who is an old friend. We used to work together at MediaWorks, which is it's so nice to see you, and you're like, God, we need to catch up more. But then it's like 7 years since, like it's been so long. You've had 2 babies.
Whoa.
I know. But when my first proper producing job, Shaz was the news girl on Breakfast for JJ, Mike and Dom. So we were all up like in our trackies looking like absolute asshole trying to make our way through like the morning.
Living the best life. I was at that point also the music director and the day's host, and also of like did stuff for the breakfast show. They really got you. They really got their money's worth in those days.
You can do this and this and this.
Yeah,
totally. Oh my God, that's so funny. But you've worked there for 17 years. In terms of salaries and pay rises and that kind of thing, because a lot of people would never have been in their job for that long. It's quite rare, I think, for people. Often in jobs, the reason you get pay rises or you leave is because it's better money, right? But you love your job. Obviously, you wouldn't be there still if you didn't. How have you managed that in terms of from a financial standpoint where you can still feel valued and sort of see pay rises? I mean, have you had pay rises? How has that kind of worked over the years?
My first contract I signed when I was working for More FM in the Wairarapa was $21,000 a year. And I don't know how I survived all that. But my rent was $100 a week. I lived in Masterton, and we had a 4-bedroom house for $100 a week.
Wow.
So $100 each. Now. I know. And then
I remember at university, my flat was $80 a week.
Oh, so fab. We had like a full sleep out, front yard, backyard. It was sick. But yeah, so I started off there, and then when I came to Auckland, my first job at the Edge, I started on like $30,000 a year. And
I started at the Edge on 35.
Yeah. So I think that it was really instilled in my sisters and I, like our whole life, where you are what you negotiate. So you have to keep like hustling. And if you work really hard, then the goods will come.
I love that.
And so I was kind of like, well, I got $21,000. Now I get $30,000. And then I remember going, I was doing days. I was the music director. You
were running the station.
I was doing days, music director, reading news, and I was helping like with the breakfast show at the same time. And I think I was getting like $45,000 or something through 4 different jobs. And I went and I was working weekends, and that was the first time I really like went in and sold myself to my boss and like did a standoff kind of negotiation.
Nice.
And
How did that feel? Was it
terrifying.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate talking about money in those situations. Like if I go to buy a car, like with my husband, I will ask all the questions that I want to know about the car. And when it comes to the negotiating part, I just walk away. Because I don't like, I think it's because I was like bullied at school. I don't like confrontation, and I only have confrontation with people I feel comfortable having confrontation with, which is pretty much just Leon, our big boss at work, and Bryce, my husband. That was my first negotiation, and Leon was like, okay, cool. And he was really good about it. And then once I like moved to drive, that's when I started to use Liz, my agent, because I don't like having those conversations. She knows what the market value is. She is better at that stuff. And then I can just focus on my job, and she negotiates that for me.
And does she take a fee for
yes,
that?
Yeah. So you pay them a percentage that you negotiate, and that kind of just comes out of your thing. But for me, I would earn less money than my commission if I didn't use her. She's worth her weight in gold. And she's just a great support person to have. Like if I ever have any conflicts that I feel like I can't handle by myself, she's like my backup, and she comes and helps me and stuff. So I would pay her half if I could. But so with that, I think I've always my motto has been like, you are what you negotiate. I earn enough to pay my bills. I earn enough to be happy. I don't want to work somewhere where I'm miserable just to earn a bit more money for a short amount of time. Like I love working for the people that I work for. I love the people I work with. I love the brand I work for. And so for as long as I'm happy, as long as I can dot my I's, cross my T's or whatever, then that's cool with me, I guess. But my family's has never really been driven by money in that way. We've always been driven by like happiness and loyalty, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I honestly would say I think you're one of the most loyal people I know, which is interesting because I know we haven't hung out in a long time, but you know those people who are so, you would never hear you say a bad word about the people that you love and who are close to you, and I think
unless they're really annoying.
Yeah, but I think that's different. It's like it's more like in jest,
Yeah.
And I truly think like for so many of your friends, you would stand in front of a bus for them, like so loyal. And that's actually quite rare. And I think especially in the media industry where it can be quite competitive, and a lot of your good friends are within the industry, there is kind of the scarcity mindset. I mean, I think there's the female side of things where it's like there's not that many female co-hosts, so there's the whole like, well, I don't want to lose my job, and I think that feeds into not taking as much maybe parental leave as you might want to have, or you might not take time off because you're scared you might not get another job, which is so fair enough, because if you look at the radio industry or the media industry in New Zealand and you pick out who are the top female presenters, there's not a huge amount of spots for that. So I get that. But then to on top of that be super loyal and encouraging of the people around you and teaching and nurturing young talent, I think that is like one of the greatest, not talents, but I think it's just such a lovely quality to have in an environment that unfortunately sometimes can feel quite competitive.
Yeah, and I think that it was like maybe made competitive by men.
Totally.
If that makes sense. So I, like with parental leave, for example, but I remember talking to you because you're working for Kyle and Jackie O when I was pregnant with my first son, Tyson, and I was like, oh my God, I'm like really scared, like I'm going to lose my job, blah, blah, blah. But when I actually...
But that's such a crazy mindset, and
it's
I
a
doubt
mindset.
You're the only person.
No, but it's also a mindset not just within media. Like
totally.
even my friends that are, work for agencies or work in retail, like it's the same
job,
thing.
I think is like if you've built your career and then you're about to have a child, which is the most amazing thing in the world, and you're like, am I still going to have my job?
But when I vocalized that, like I said to like Leon, who was our big boss, I was like, I'm really like, we went out for breakfast and I was like, I'm really worried. Like, I don't want you to replace me. Like, what can I do while I'm away? And he was like, how long do you want to take off? And I was like, honestly, Leon, I'll take like 12 weeks. Like, I'll just take 12 weeks. And he was like, Sharyn, I'm going to block you out for a year and you just come back when you want to come back.
Oh my God, bless his
And I
heart.
was like, I promise Leon, I'll only do 3 months. And he was like, Sharyn, I don't expect you back 6 months. He's like, I don't want an answer before 6 months. He's like, just enjoy it. You only get it once. And I was like, okay. So I ended up after Tyson, I got to 5 months and then I was like, can I come back after I've had a holiday? And so I ended up having 8 months off
Amazing,
instead.
Sharyn.
And it wasn't a problem. But also I was working with Jono and Ben at the time, and they were incredible because they both have kids. They've had wives that went on maternity leave and they were amazing. They would text me all the time. They would call me all the time. They came over and visited me and they were really supportive. And Jono especially, and Ben as well, they were very much like, no one's going to replace you. We can't wait to have you back. And they were really awesome.
Kind of the support and the reassurance you needed. So like, okay, cool.
Yeah. So that was really great. And so then when I went on maternity leave with Ruben, he was premature. So he was like 11 weeks early. I was in hospital for 6 weeks before he was even born. And they were great. They're like, Sharyn, radio doesn't matter. The only thing that matters right now is you and the baby. So just do it.
Do you think that's like a, because they've had kids, they get it and they obviously love their children and their wives? Or do you think that, because like, I think even as someone who hasn't had kids or isn't in a relationship, I'm just so amazed with that kind of response. Like because I don't think it's the norm yet.
No, I think it's individualized. I think it depends on the human.
Even like my friends that I know at MediaWorks before they went on holiday, I know that they've been told by Leon, they're like, you've got to, I hope he doesn't mind I'm saying this. Sorry, Leon. But he'll be like, hey, make sure you cash out your annual leave before you go because it accrues while you're on maternity leave. So if you don't use it now, when you come back, it'll be worth nothing. So cash it out now so you get it at the full rate.
I just think that is like the key to good management.
And a lot of people don't know that. Yeah. And so a lot of people would take their annual leave and come back and be like, I've only got a quarter of what I would normally get paid. So he would always be like, you've got 3 weeks annual leave, cash it out so you get it at its full value. And you're like, okay, great. Wow. But then
I'm so inspired by that because I just think there's so many bosses where you hear stories that are kind of horror stories. To hear there's like someone that's so in your corner that feels almost like not a dad, but kind of, you know. Like
it definitely does special. To me.
But then you get employees that stay for 17
True.
years,
yeah. And
you know, if you treat them well. And that's like, you can't put a price on that.
And
like
to be honest, that is a huge part of why I have stayed at MediaWorks and a huge part of why I love working the edge is because I've always had, Leon's always been such a great manager to me, human to me, and he tells me the harsh truth when I need it. We've definitely had our ups and downs, but I love that if it came to it, he would have your back in a situation, and I love that about him.
Leon doesn't sponsor this podcast.
He doesn't. He doesn't. And I don't have a contract up either, so he's already fucked. He's stuck with me. But there are women within our industry that have had, you know, they go on maternity leave for like 3 months and then they come back. And a lot of people think it's because they're scared they're going to lose their job, but it is actually because they're the breadwinners in their house. So they come back and because you can split maternity leave. It doesn't have to be the woman.
Yeah.
It can be, you could do 6 months, they do 6 months. And so like a couple of my friends that have done like the 3-month maternity leave, their husbands have been the stay-at-home dad. So that's why they've gone back. But a lot of people, because they're used to like the woman has to take a year off, they're like, oh, they've come back early because they're insecure. They haven't come back early because they're insecure. They're coming back because they're the ones making the money and the dad is being the stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
And I think that's amazing.
I think it'll be really interesting when pay becomes very equal and there isn't a gender pay gap. Because at the moment, obviously, there's a lot of women who are earning less than men and therefore financially it makes sense for them to be stay-at-home mums because maybe childcare is more expensive than what they earn.
Childcare is so fucking expensive.
Oh my gosh, I was talking to a friend the other day and she was like, she's at her wit's end with her job and she's like, you know what? You literally pay me the amount that I pay to daycare. So I'm literally like net. She's like, I could be at home with my kids and not working, not paying for childcare. She's like, but more mentally, she's like, I need to stay at work for my own mental sanity and my career and all that. But she's just like, you know what? Like it's just... Childcare is so expensive.
So expensive.
I was just going to say, because you and Bryce, so Bryce, for anyone that doesn't know, is Sharyn's husband of, 10 years, a long time. Bryce is also would we say radio media personality of some description. Do you guys obviously talk about salaries and compare that? And then also, I'm curious to know what your setup is financially and how, and does that work for you?
So we moved in together, must have been like a year or something. That we were together, I don't know. We moved in together within like 18 months. And
when you know, you know.
When you know, you know. But from the moment we moved in together, we just merged everything. Yeah. And which was a high risk scenario for Bryce because he owned an apartment in Ponsonby. So there was no like... I said to him before we got married, I was like, do you want to do like a...
contracting out agreement?
Yeah, like do you want to do like a...
prenup.
A prenup because he's like, no. I was like, well, if we break up, it means I can take half... He's like, we won't break up. And I'm like, okay, your risk. So
Because I am actually going to take you for half of your
and
shit.
Bryce is like super good with money. From the moment we moved in together, it was like, okay, you get this much spending money per pay, I get this much spending money per pay.
And was that based on percentages of what you earn, or how did you do that?
Nah,
no,
so-
it was just even.
So he get paid, I get paid, put it together, you both get $100 for petrol, $300 spending money.
That's so good and
And then
organised.
your phone bill, boom, done.
What if you go out for dinner? It's like, oh, can you pay? Can
If you went out for dinner,
can you pay for
dinner, yeah.
out of your money, and then I.
Because so we do that now. Like so
Yeah.
even to this day, as soon as I get paid, I take what is the budgeted spending money, I pay my credit card, and if I have a phone bill or like gym or something like that, and then I give him all my money and he just like does something. Honestly,
He just does something.
honestly, whenever somebody dies, I'm always like, my first thought is like, oh, if Bryce dies, I don't even know who our power's with. And I always go up to him, I'm like, Bryce, can you just make sure you leave somewhere the passwords?
In your will, can you just leave all
Yeah,
the
just leave. I was
passwords?
like, just write a list of who the power's with.
So good.
When I pay water, do we pay water? I was like, you just leave all that shit, okay? I like, what's the bank password?
Yeah.
I don't even have access to our savings account.
That
Does
is
that scare
wild.
you? No.
Because if I had access to our savings account, I'd be like, oh, $100 for
Yeah.
Sharyn, $100 for Sharyn. So it's so we have all of that sorted. Like we just put it all together because we kind of look at each other, look at ourselves as a team. If we go out for dinner now, or if we go out together, then I don't even take my card. Bryce has got it.
Bryce/me.
Yeah, Bryce has
yeah.
got it. But it's like all of our stuff together. And so, but we do a thing where if I do a tally job, then when I get paid for that, and now Bryce as well, because he's usually stuck at home with the kids while I'm doing it or whatever, I get to buy like a luxury item.
What do you choose?
So it could be like, so you get paid and then you'll be like, oh, I might get that Deadly Pony handbag that I've been wanting for a long time. And so it's something like that. But it's always, or it might be, we'll have a weekend away. Or
Like a fun splurge, basically.
yeah, so basically it's something that you wouldn't buy normally, but it's like, yay. So I've got this really cool like purple Deadly Ponies bag that I bought in 2015 or something, and I wear it all the time, and everyone's always like, oh, and I was like, I got this for when I did Dancing with the Stars. And
It's like a
little
tattoo, except it's a purchase.
yeah, pretty much. And I got these really cool like Chiara Ferengi. I hope I said her name right.
I don't even know that brand. Do you know that brand?
She's like a designer, but they're these really cool like they're black kind of encrusted.
Is she the tall blonde girl?
Yes, and there's got a burger. One's got a
Do
burger
you
and one's
know
got
it?
chips.
Yeah,
but they were like
totally
$300 shoes, and I felt like a real bougie bitch. It's so that's kind of like where the treats kind of come in. Is like
I think that's awesome because you probably don't. Bryce probably doesn't budget for those jobs on television because they're an added bonus, right? It's like a 10-week filming for Dancing with the Stars or whatever. It's not actually your yearly salary in a way.
and you never know when it's going to happen. And also, like when COVID happened, I lost a quarter of my income in a 1-minute phone call
What was that?
when Dancing with the Stars got cancelled. So it was like
Wow.
because of COVID, and it was like I remember getting told and being like, oh, and then hanging up. And then looking at my phone, and it was like 48 seconds or something. I was like, I just lost my job in 48 seconds. And it was a lot of money. Because it was just literally like, hey, just letting you know you're going to get an email about this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, fuck, okay, cool. And then that happened like a couple of times. And then you might like the next year, like this year, I don't know if I've got any TV happening this year. So you can't really, we never.
It's like your pocket money opposed to
Yeah.
your like relied upon income.
Yeah, we don't rely on it because TV is so fickle in comparison to radio. It's like radio is your wife and TV is your mistress.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how Leon's always described it, and I think it's very fitting.
Do you have an emergency fund by any chance, or do you know if Bryce has an emergency fund for you guys?
$3 a friend.
like savings.
Get Bryce.
Yeah.
So we have savings, but also have like income insurance as well.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like a lot of that would have happened to a lot of people, but it would have been all their income, or
Yeah.
I mean, you get government support. But like, yeah, it's quite scary, and especially when you've got 2 kids to be like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I've lost a quarter of my income.
Yeah, and it definitely like a lot of our friends that were like comedians and stuff during COVID. That was the thing. You've got to always have like rainy day fund. We like slam our mortgage as much as we can and stuff like that because we know that our jobs are so fickle that you could like if you don't get good ratings or whatever, you've got to just make hay while the sun shines, you know? So
Like
you
a supermodel.
do as much as you can because it could be gone like that. And then you've gone from earning like a good salary to being like, oh, fuck. Like, and that's my thing. I always say to Bryce, it's like, we need to know how to do something else.
Do you make an effort to upskill so that if something happened, you could step this way? Or like, what's the sort of process for you around that?
Every time before I sign a contract, at radio, I always think, do I still love this? Am I going to want to do this for another whatever year term I'm going to sign? Do I want to do this every day? Is this going to be the greatest thing I want to do? If I didn't do that, what else could I do? And then I kind of like list off and be like, okay, what life do I want to live right now? And right now I'm like, I want to live that life. Like I want to do radio. So I'm like signed at radio until I'm like 40. So like another 3 years. And then when I get to there, I'll be like, do I still want to be on air? Do I want to have a behind the scenes job? So that's why I've like earlier on in my career, I did programming when I was music directors, and I love the programming side of radio as well. So if I lost my job on air, I could slot back into a programming job tomorrow. I could do on air coaching. I could do sales. Sales
You
was
could
actually
do
podcasting. You know, like there's
I'm looking for a curve intern, by the way.
I could lose my job tomorrow. And so if I lose my job tomorrow, what would I do?
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that are on air that's all they've done for
It's
fuck knows how long.
It's quite a niche skill set.
And then once that's gone, it's like, oh, what do you do? Like heaps of broadcasters go into real estate afterwards.
Do they?
Yeah, like there's heaps of like old broadcasters like Royden Christie. He's a real estate agent that used to be on Breakfast. Hamish Mackay used to be in.
That's quite funny, isn't
Yeah,
it?
there's heaps of them because you've got the gift of the gab.
Right.
You probably make more money being a real estate agent too. But yeah, so I do have that in my mind where I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? How long do I want to do this for?
And does that give you the security or peace of mind to have the confidence to either A, negotiate what it is you want and you'd walk away for, but also knowing that your job isn't defining you in every sense of the word?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Because I think as females we do not sell ourselves short, but it's like the job is the the job is the be all and end all. And it's like I think it's if you figure out what you love and what you're good at, then you know your talents, you know your skills, and you can kind of adapt and mold that into something else should the inevitable happen that you do lose your job. And so it's kind of knowing like...
Did you say the inevitable as if it's going to happen? I feel like that's...
Is that not
but everybody does lose their job eventually.
Yeah.
You know, like everyone gets made redundant or they retire or whatever.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to do something else, right? So
it's knowing that you're smart, or you've got a talent that can be repurposed and
it's just having having an emergency parachute in case you need it. Yes. You may also just be stuck in a situation that makes you desperately unhappy. And why would you spend most of your time at work if you could do something else? And not everyone has that luxury, and I totally understand that. But if you could do something else, why would you spend most of the time doing something that damages your brain? You know, and
or your heart, or you know, any part of who you are.
I've definitely had times where I'm like, you know what, I fucking love this, but I don't love it enough for it to make me this unwell, and I'm not going to fucking do it. And being like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore unless this changes. And then they'll be like, okay, cool. And then we figure out how to make it change. And if it hadn't changed, I would have easily walked away from it. And I
think that's super inspiring for people to hear.
But
because
I'm lucky because my husband has a job. You know, there's a lot of people that might not be in that scenario, but I would have easily been like, fuck this, because I know what it's like to be like very depressed and anxious.
A lot of us have been
and I
there.
don't want to spend most of my time away from my family and then coming home and being a piece of shit for them because I'm unhappy. Yeah. And so that's my thing. I'm like, I refuse to do that. I would rather go and work full time at Cheetah and live my best life. Because I would love to just design people's cushions.
Imagine the discounts you get, and then your lounge.
Oh my God, they get a mean-ass discount. Oh my God, I love it.
You've probably looked into it. Like I wouldn't put it past
I
it.
have. I've like, honestly, there's been times in my life where I'm like, no, fuck it. I'm going to see if Cheetah's got a job. I know there's stock back to front. I'm on their website every day just gawking at cushions.
I don't
interview would be
doubt
so
that
good.
because Sharyn was in the house for 2.5 seconds. She was like, excuse me, where did you get that chest of drawers from?
Sideboard. I
where
love
was
sideboards.
Where was that sideboard from?
Yeah.
If you want to sell it, let me know.
Yeah, I'm so keen.
Hustle.
Okay.
Hey, you've got two gorgeous little kids. In terms of money, your relationship with it, what do you think are some of the key things that you want to pass on to them or help them understand when it comes to their relationship with money?
So not Ruben as so much because he's only like 15 months old, but Tyson's 5. And pretty much from when he was old enough to kind of understand, we give him jobs and he has to earn a coin, like he earns like $2 or something. It could be as something as little as stacking the toilet paper away after that's his job, and he has like a couple of jobs that he does.
God bless his heart.
He sets the table at nighttime and he stacks away the toilet paper, and now he started school, he helps me make his lunch at nighttime. Basically, he would get that and we put it in the money box. And so he had to say, he really wanted to go and see the glowworms at Waitomo Caves. And so it took him a year, but he had to save up for his ticket, and then he had to save up for his accommodation and petrol. And
he's going by himself, and he's going to get it.
But he had, because if you got to pay petrol in Daddy's car, and it's also, so if we're going, like, say if we were going on a trip to the Gold Coast, he would have to save up for this part. He'd have to save up for part of his accommodation. He thinks he's paying for it, but he's not. But it's just so that he learns how to save money.
I love that.
And we'll go
cool.
we'll go to the warehouse, and he's like, Mama, I want to get this Hot Wheels car. And I'm like, okay, well, have you got $4 in your money box? And he's like, oh. And I'm like, well, you make the decision. If you want to buy that, that's fine. But you have to give me $4 from your money box when we get home. And so he sits there and he thinks about it, and he's like,
It's so good.
And then he might do it. And then as soon as we get home, I'm like, go get your money box. And he has to give me the $4.
Sharyn, I reckon that is one of the coolest things I've heard in a long time.
But that's because that's what my parents would do for me. We'd always be like asking for money, and then our dad was like, okay, we're going to give you $20 a week pocket money, which at that time was a shit ton of money. We were like, oh, fuck, we are so rich. And he would give us $20 a week pocket money, and we weren't allowed to ask for anything else. And so that was it. So you had $20 if you wanted to go ice skating and spend it all that night, that's your $20 gone. But you get $20 pocket money. We're not giving you a cent more, cent less. If you want more than that, then you have to get a job. And it was the same if we wanted to buy label clothes, as my mum would call them.
Is it like Glassons or something?
Nah, more like, if you want to get like a Billabong top or something.
Oh, God.
Like that.
Rip curl.
Rip curl,
Jandals.
Bombora for all the old people out there.
Some Dickies.
Yes, if you wanted any like a label clothing, you had to buy it yourself. And so mum would like take us to the mall every week. We got our pocket money and we'd have to like lay by. Like I bought this Roxy jacket.
I remember lay by.
I got this Roxy jacket and it was like $220 and I had to pay it off on lay by. I still have it. And my friends from high school mock me relentlessly.
Do you wear it?
Nah, it's just so fun. I wore it everywhere. My friends are all like, like my memory from you from high school is your Roxy jacket and holiday menthols, because I'd always like smoke holiday menthols because it was so cool. And but I still have it because it's like the first thing I ever bought myself, and it's got like cigarette burns and shit in it. It's like used to be baby, it's stained as fuck, but I love it, and it's
symbolic.
Yeah, and it's like that's the first thing that I worked really hard for and paid off by myself. Yeah.
Oh, I just think the idea of teaching kids, I think it's super hard to find the right way to do it where it's going to sink in and they're going to care. Like my parents, bless their heart, really, really tried, and it just didn't for some reason. I battled until 30, just really didn't know what to do with my money and how to save and how to spend and invest. And I think it's such an art and so much time and effort that goes into teaching a younger generation about that. But I feel like you're nailing it. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. My dad because my dad worked in banking before he was retired for like 40 odd years. And his thing was like, you should save, I think it was like 20% of your pay, which isn't like super.
That's what you say, isn't it, babe?
Yeah. It's quite hard to do that now. But he was like, even if you save $2 from your pay, as long as you save something. It has to, don't just save nothing. So if you save $2 in your pay, you've saved something for a rainy day.
And that's what we say, like everyone's feeling the pinch at the moment and everything's so bloody expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you know what, if you need to cut back from investing $10 a week, then at least just cut it back to like $2 a week, but don't stop completely, because it's then so hard to emotionally and like psychologically
get back in the habit.
And I've definitely done that. I've cut back and I'm like, oh, this month, like I've got a lot of expenses, or I've got a lot to pay for. I won't invest my money. And before I know it, 6 months, and I'm like, gosh, I haven't got back into the habit. And then when you do start getting back into the habit, you're like, oh, it's like a big chunk of your salary going out again each month.
Or if you're a spender, give it to somebody who won't let you touch it. Like
I had this
no, even like worse. So I really, really wanted this black Deadly Ponies backpack. And this is
and Deadly Ponies.
This is like
Deadly
in
Ponies
2016 or something. And I really, really wanted it. And it was so expensive. And Bryce was like, get fucked. He's like, you are not buying a backpack that expensive. You're not going to use it that much. You're going to use it for a year, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I said to my mum, it's like, Mum, I want to save up for this backpack. It's out of stock at the moment. I'm going to give you $50 a pay until I have enough. So I would give it to her. She wouldn't let me touch it. Even if I'd be like, Mum, I need that $50 back. I've still got my money. She's like, nope, backpack. I was like, fuck, okay. Eventually saved up for it. I've got the backpack here. I've been using it for 8 years. I use it every single day.
Like you have it here right now?
Yeah, it's like out up there on your couch. It's my work bag. I take it to work every day, and it's like, but I had to give that money to my mum, and because if I put it in my own account, I would have spent it. And then if I gave it to Bryce, he'd be like, you are not spending $800 on a fucking backpack.
We were talking about this the other day, and so I was like, Vic, can you look after my money and I'll give you my savings, and then every time I want to spend something I have to ask you. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Admin, it's like she's a gatekeeper.
It's admin, but if you give it to somebody that doesn't care, like I'd give it to my mum, and it's like easy as. Like she would just be like,
we need to talk about this later because I think this is necessary.
Yeah. Or my mum's hot fire tip, which taught me how to budget, was so say you get $100 a week spending money. So you get your spending money out in cash, and then you go to the bank and I would get, because I wanted to buy my lunch every day. So I would get $10 a day per payday. So say you get paid fortnightly, I'd get $100 worth of $10 notes. So that's $10 a day for work, and then $50 per weekend. And then I had 2 plastic bags in my like little money bags in my jewelry box. Every day I'd take a $10 note out, and then when I went to town, I'd take the 50. And that was all I could spend. And holy shit, it was like game changer. I never needed to ask anyone for money, and it just really taught me how to like.
That's a brilliant tip.
Yeah, she's like, if you can see it, it's better than, especially now with PayWave, you're just like, bleh, bleh,
I think it's psychologically, back in the day, it would have been a lot easier to save because you were literally handing over money. Whereas now you just tap, or you're like, it's just kind of emotionally different. And I think
you're disconnected from it, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, and then you check your bank balance and go, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've got $50 to last me till next Wednesday. Like, Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think this will sound particularly shocking to people, but you can't save enough to have $1 million. I mean, you would have to have a pretty ginormous salary to be able to get to that amount, wouldn't you?
Yes, the average person, you and me, we can't. Sorry,
Elon Musk probably could save his way to $1 million, but you know.
So if you're listening, Elon Musk, you can jog on.
Please stop listening. We don't want you in this podcast. But the reason that a lot of us are not able to grow wealth is because we're relying on savings rather than investing. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you're like, do you know what? I really would love to get some more investing ideas, and I want to learn to invest and feel more confident. The Investing Club is a really fun, cool place to join a bunch of like-minded women, but also have the expertise of Vic, who's like moderating everything, doing all the research, coming up with some
moderating sounds like there's some.
It sounds quite
rogue comments.
True. No, but it's cool. Like the amount of people that are asking questions and having like thoughts on different investment ideas. Like it's a really awesome place to learn, but actually also invest in things. So,
and it's completely beginner friendly as well.
Yeah. If you are interested in learning more, we'll put a link in the podcast show notes, but also there is a 7-day trial. So you can just jump in and have a look and see what it's about to make sure it's right for you. All the details are in the podcast show notes.
See you there.
Can I say one last tip?
Of course.
If your parents tell you to invest in something, invest in it.
Okay, where does that come from?
So my parents, and we do it for our kids as well, my parents, when we were born, would put $5 or $10 a week into a bank account. Anyway, so when we got older, our dad was like, you've got, and we weren't allowed to touch it till we're 18, and he was like, you've got this much money in your bank account, Auckland's building this new airport. I'm going to buy some shares. Do you want to buy some shares under your name for $1,000? And we were like, yes. So we bought shares for $1,000 in Auckland Airport and tripled it, and it paid for my radio school. And
You're
then,
kidding.
And then I sold him so he still fucking got them, but I sold my shares to him to pay for radio school, but you'd get your checks every year, which was great. But he invested us in that, Contact Energy, and
speaking my language.
What was the other one? I don't know. But every investment that he made for us worked.
Yeah.
And we were really lucky. I mean, he worked in banking, and his whole job was crisis care management for really big companies and farms and shit. But he was really good at it. And every time he gave us a tip at the time, we were like, Dad, I want to give someone $1,000 of my money. But then, boom.
I think it's because it's like a long term. They've got a long term view. Or you're like, look, you invest in it when you're a young age. You can't get it to 18, which is like, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years away. And so it's kind of locked in for that period. Whereas we find it quite hard when we're older to not touch an investment
Yeah.
for that long. So it's
Yeah.
like when you're a kid, you're out hanging with your friends and stuff, you're not thinking about your investments. And
Yeah.
so when it's kind of done for you or taken care of for you
Yeah.
or
And you
done
got
at
a
an
long
early age.
time horizon.
Yeah, that's why we always say like invest for the long term.
Yeah.
All that,
And if you can, get your KiwiSaver on your banking app so you can see how much money you have in there.
Do you reckon? Because I find I'm like, oh, I'd love to dip into that
No, because I don't know
KiwiSaver
how to
fund.
dip into it, but
Me
I see it
neither.
and I'm like, fuck yeah, Sharyn, you're going to Greece when you're retired. Or like, so every week when I see it get bigger, I'm like, oh yeah, bitch, you are doing life. And I feel like I'm doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And we have, both our kids have KiwiSaver as well. It's like something that Bryce's dad does for them, which is a privilege and I acknowledge that. But yeah, if you have your KiwiSaver on your banking app, you can see how much it's growing and it just makes you like, fuck yeah, pay my KiwiSaver.
No, but my mum also bought me Contact Energy shares when I was very young. And I don't think I made a lot of money off it. I can't quite remember. But I think it was more the psychology
babe.
Yeah.
psychology of the dividend checks arriving in the mail.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm just getting money.
Yeah, I
Money's
remember-
just flowing in. This is great. It would have been like, I don't know, like $20 or
Yeah.
something. But I'm like, cool.
I remember getting one for $53 once and I was like, I'm going to Klein's. And if you don't know what Klein's is, then you're too young. It's basically what La Visa was in the 90s.
Oh my God, I don't even remember.
No,
I feel like
neither.
I'm not that young.
Okay, well, neither. I don't know what it is.
Sharyn, I'm aware that you are a very busy gal.
You're a
and
good girl.
But thank you so much for coming on. And
This has been a great chat.
It's been so fun. I thank you for coming in. Thank you for being so
Anytime.
open and honest and also sharing those like amazing tips.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to need a
thank
few
you.
baggies for my money.
Yeah, here's some yeah.
Money.
Not like the way you normally get them. What?
Excuse me, I do not buy any other types of baggies, just so you know.
You made it sound like that.
Thank you so much for listening to Raising the Curve. These conversations are designed to teach you everything you need to know to be better with your money, from saving to investing to talking with your friends about your salaries, all of that stuff.
And if you like what you heard, we would love if you could please hit subscribe wherever you're listening and leave a comment. Let us know what you thought about the episode.
And it only takes 1 second and it would really make our week, our month, our year.
Yeah.
So please do it. Okay. Love you. Bye.
Okay, quickly. The Curve was created to empower and educate you about investing, but we are not financial advisors.
Our platform exists for educational purposes only, and it doesn't provide personalized investing advice for your individual needs and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision.
And always remember to do your own research before making any investment or financial decision.
We're here for any knowledge and support you need, but the final call is always yours.
And thanks for being here.
You got this.
Yeah, we know you got this.